I've seen a lot of newer players not understand the Numpad notation for certain fighting games, so I decided to make a video to explain it. Fighting games are typically played using a controller, which has access to directional inputs and some variety of buttons. Traditionally, the controller would be something along the lines of an arcade stick, but these days you can see other wacky contraptions being used, like console controllers or keyboards. Regardless of what you use, your abilities should be more or less identical. The first thing I will touch on are the buttons. Buttons are used to input your attacks usually. The number of buttons that you will need depends on the game, but here are some examples. Many games will often have some level of complexity with these button presses, whether it be proximity normals, commands normals, or specials, or supers. To get into these, let's first cover the concept of movement. Whether you're using a stick, or pad, or whatever other controller you may be using, pretty much all fighting games have some sort of 8-way input and a neutral position. Now, you may not have noticed, but there are 9 input directions, as well as 9 buttons on your traditional number pad, if you exclude the 0 key. If you're wondering why anyone would use this style of notation, I think it's just easier to type it out. These numbers correspond to your input direction. For example, 2S in this case means crouching slash. Don't get too far ahead of yourself here though, because you may be wondering how to deal with this pesky second dimension. Input guides will typically assume the player to be facing right. This means that 6 means forward, not right. Once you have it in your brain that 6 is always forward and 4 is always back, you've officially passed the 100 level class. Next up is the wonderful world of motion inputs. If you see a string of numbers, such as a 2, 3, 6, that means you have to do a motion input, a quarter circle forward input in this case. If you see a number in brackets, that means you have to do a charge input. Also, a J in the input means you have to be airborne to use it. J stands for jump, by the way. Now that you've gotten through the 200 level class, it's time for some homework. Figure out what these numpad inputs would translate to in a real game. That's all I have unless I missed something. If I did, then let me know in the comments and I'll respond. Thank you.